Hi everyone, Tom was here, back at it with something just a little bit different. If you've watched the channel and if you do keep up with all the videos, and look, I commend you for keeping up with all the videos. Yes, all those videos are interesting to me, but I can't imagine that wide variety of content being interesting to everyone else. At least, you might be interested in some of my videos, but not all of my videos, but I digress. Anywho, if you've watched some of the videos before, you've seen me show off some of the arcade 1-up cabinets I have, and I have quite a few. I have the Rampage, I have Mortal Kombat, I have Simpsons, I have Turtles. I really don't know if I could fit any more into the house. I think the only one I haven't done a video on is the Mortal Kombat one. But when I have been kind of collecting these arcade 1-ups, there's other companies that make similar items as well. And one of those is AtGames. And AtGames has a few of the cabinet varieties. But one thing that they brought new that up until, I think, last year that Arcade 1-Up didn't have any version of was Pinball. And so I've had my eye on the Ultimate Legends Pinball table for some time. When it first came out, when it first was announced, I was like, wow, that's really cool. It'd be awesome to get that. And then I saw the price point. The price point was, I think it was like $800, $900. And I was like, no, that's not exactly what I'm going for here. So I kind of wrote it off as like basically like a, maybe someday down the road I'll be able to have something like that. Well, AtGames had a end of year sale at the end of 2022. And they put they released a mini version of the pinball table. And so I was very intrigued by that. I was like, okay, it's not exactly the full-size experience I was looking for, but it's kind of cool, because I don't have a ton of space, that this mini might be able to be set up somewhere. Now, the downside to that is that the mini doesn't have any legs. So they don't have pinball legs on the mini, but you can add pinball legs to the mini. So I ended up pulling the trigger and getting one of these minis. And I've been playing around with it, and I felt, kind of pretty good about my experience. But I'm one that doesn't leave well enough alone, you see. Because it just so happens that Sam's Club, for some reason, at the end of the year, decided to clearance out all their stuff. And they were dropping it to, like, way cheap prices. They were actually selling online for a certain price, only to find out that there was a drop in a store that was, like, hundreds of dollars lower. And so there's these communities on Facebook, the AtGames Pinball community, the Arcade 1-Up community. There's a few different ones of each. But they were kind of telling people, like, hey, if you buy one of these larger arcades or one of these larger pinball tables, Sam's Club will price match it down to what the lowest price was that was in store. And so I was, I was like, no, that's fine. I have my mini. I feel pretty good about that. And then they had dropped the Ultimate Legends pinball table, the Big Bopper, that was on sale for, I think, like $4.99 down to like $3.99. And with the match in store, it dropped it down to like $200 or something like that, which is significantly less. It was actually less than what I paid for the mini. So foolishly, as I known to do, I happen to have acquired both of these monsters. That's the mini up there. That is the Ultimate Legends table there. And I'm trying to figure out what to do with both. I have the mini. I like the mini. I have the large table now. It was kind of like always the dream to have the large table just because it was so expensive. And now I have both. So what do I do with them? So we're going to get into a little bit of gameplay, a little bit of showing off the mini, as well as the large one. And maybe you can help me decide, should I get rid of one of these or should I keep them? Both. I mean, I don't have a palatial estate by any stretch where it's like, oh, the mini can go in the east wing, and then the large one can go in the west wing. Like, I basically have this small little corner of space, and then my basement that's unfinished, and it has a lot of work to be done before I put anything down there. So, we're going to get into it. The mini versus the large full-size monster on Tom Was Here.
Hey, how do you like this? I'm Dan Israel, and you're watching Tom Was Here.
Okay, first look at the size difference between these two. I mean, you can see the mini there, really doesn't, the entire area for the mini doesn't even fill up the full screen of the large. So, I mean, if you have a small space, the mini may be the way to go. I mean, it is, well, sorry, let me call it the mini, but the Legends Pinball Micro, let's say, might be the way to go. Because I don't feel you're losing a ton when actually, playing this, and it fits into such a small space. Like, at one point I had this here, where this gaggle of garbage is currently. I had this little end table turned, and then I had the mini, like, right there, and it fit perfectly. So it was my first taste into this, and it lasted on its own about a solid 2 weeks, maybe. Turns on in the back. I've noticed with the AtGames thing, both the mini and the large size one, that it does take a little bit to boot up. It does take and when I say a little bit, I mean it's not like super crazy. It's just it takes a little bit of time to actually boot up and get it rolling here, like maybe like a full minute. Now currently, because I have the Legends up here and I'm not sure what to do with the mini has kind of been downstairs at the moment, kind of not being played for the last few weeks, just because I'm trying to figure out what the best way to do it is. I've also put in a pre-order for legs for it. Figure if I am going to put it at somewhere else in the house, having it be freestanding and be able to be tucked away in a small space would be beneficial. So I did do that. But obviously, if you're putting something in the corner, you got to have some flippers. There's flippers on each side, so you can't really tuck it too far away in the corner. The interesting thing about the mini is that the mini comes with way more games than the larger one. It comes with all of the newer style games, the Tato tables, Zachariah tables, and, there's really just a ton of I think about 50 plus that you get with the mini table. But the full-size table only comes with about 22 games, which means you have to buy the rest. And the packs are not super cheap. Yeah, so a lot of these tables are really cool and they play really well. Let me just pull one up as an example. Say maybe this frontline one, the Tato one, where, like I said, they look good. The sound is good. There is also a difference where on the larger one, this lights up, whereas it doesn't on the micro, but you kind of have to cut corners somewhere. But, I mean, it looks pretty good. I mean, I cannot gripe about these tables. Now, there is, the other major difference is that when the launch is just a button, whereas on this, it's the old plunger, like actual pinball. So, let's just launch it. Kind of one-handed it at the moment. I tilted it. I'm going to try to overhead view, see how it looks here. Oh, completely missed that. So yeah, I mean, that's the Mini. It looks good, it plays good, it is a good sound, the controls are responsive. I haven't run into any issues with it. It's great. It fulfills my needs, so I really can't complain. So maybe you might ask why I grabbed the big one. Well, I grabbed the big one because it was the one I kind of always eyeballed, and I kind of want to show off the big one to show you kind of what it looks like here. Alright, now let's take a look at the big one here. Now this actually has a switch that's under the plunger here. A lot of people complain, I've seen other YouTube videos where people complained about the backlight. And the backlight does glare. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. It definitely does glare. So mileage will vary as far as your frustration with that glare. I'll be honest, it does not affect me too much at all. I'm also trying to figure out what to do with this top part here. Currently, it's a perfect place for these Funkos that I put up, but really, I'm trying to figure out if I should put a light up here or something. I think you can actually buy a few accessories for both the this top board here, and I think something that goes between here that shows the score as well. There's also something you can do where you can add like a PC and connect like Pinball FX3, in some cases a Nintendo Switch. I wish I was more technically inclined, that I knew how to, you can put a Vibs board here that would show the back glass of the Pinball FX3 you're playing. All that cool stuff. It would be amazing if I knew how to do that, or knew someone that knew how to do that. And I know there's YouTube tutorials out there, but, I'm technical to a point, and beyond that point, I'm useless. So for me, it's just kind of playing these like classic games here. Now, I will say a lot of these, the Gottlieb ones, which you think, Gottlieb was one of the top names in all of pinball here, that I wish they looked better. Kind of when you see for the Mini, don't get me wrong, it looks good. It looks pretty good. The old classic Shatner Rescue 911 here. But I just want to show you like a contrast compare between this one and then the newest release that they put out, just to kind of show you. Alright, so now I'm like one flipper here. This dies on the other side.
911 emergency.
I got an emergency. I got my wife having a baby. We're camping at Sequoia.
Chopper 1, we have a lady in labor. We need a paramedic flown in immediately.
Oh, yeah, it goes on the other side.
Get down here quick.
Of course it would. But yeah, oh, wow. Did it actually roll back? It was right to the other flipper, of course, because I'm flying one-handed here. But yeah, as you can see kind of the artwork and the style, it looks okay, but it looks very vintage. Whereas, let me show you a comparison here. Yeah, I forgot I had to, sign in. That was the first time this has actually signed me out. Usually it doesn't. But this is the newer packs that they added, because I wanted to at least add one of the newer ones.
Grinch.
And with this Dr. Seuss one, it just looks so, like, compared to the Gottlieb tables, just looks so much better and plays more responsive. It's a simple thing, but like the ball actually looks like it's spinning versus the Gottlieb one where it's kind of like hovering or floating. But I mean, like, it just looks way better.
He got stuck only once, for a moment or two. He stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the little blue stockings all hung a row. These stockings, he grinned, are the first thing to go. Hit flashing spark targets on the second playfield.
Yeah. Trying to do this one-handed with this one is not going to be the move. Ah! Somehow got lucky a couple of them times. Wow. I'm getting... Ah. I was doing pretty good one-handed, actually. Yeah, it just has a more, like... You can see that there's some effort that was kind of put into this one versus the Gottlieb ones, which feel very, like older ROM style, kind of, I guess you could say. But this one I played probably more than...
Flashing spot targets on the second playfield.
Yeah. I mean, this one I put some... Ah, of course I grabbed the wrong one. But even so, even if you're getting the larger one and not acknowledging that you're, the smaller one, you can add all of the games. You can add all of the games from the smaller one onto the bigger one. And it's something I may do eventually, because then it has, said quite a few tables, but adding more onto here will add to the mileage for me. Because some of the Zachariah tables and the Tato tables actually look better and play better on the, at least on the micro that I've messed around with, than a lot of the tables do with these Gottlieb ones. Because these Gottlieb ones are not, so they look fine, they look very like, I don't know, they're just like older. Like they're not like, there's something standard definition about them. But don't get me wrong, it's a nice look. You can tell that this guy is supposed to be like a fake Clint Eastwood. Like you can see it on there, and then so they look pretty good. Like it's not really a knock on them. It's just compared to the new tables, they do not look that good. This kind of leads me into my dilemma here. What do I do with both of them? Ultimately, my eyes got wide when I saw this larger one initially. And this larger one was actually less expensive than the smaller one. Had I known that, of course, hindsight being 2020, I probably would have never bought the smaller one, knowing that I could get the larger one for significantly less. But now I have both. So, do I sell off the smaller one? Or do I keep the smaller one, put it in a different room in the house or the basement, knowing that, I will play it probably sparingly and probably pay the larger one a lot more? I'm trying to figure out what to do. The shame is that I love the smaller one. The smaller one's fantastic. It plays great. It's responsive. It looks good. So no gripes there on the smaller one. It's just when compared to the larger one, I like the larger playfield, I like the plunger aspect of it, and I like the legs aspect of it. I like that it's its own, system. The only downside is that in order to get all the games that are in the smaller one, I would have to pay, however many $20, because they sell them in $20 or $25 pack? $25 packs. So $25 packs include like 10 games. So in order to get all the games that are on the mini, I would have to spend like $100 or $125, which if I did it, kind of, every once in a while, eventually I'd have it versus just like sitting there and just like this one, and putting out that extra money. But even if I put in all that extra money, it's still, I think, if I remember correctly, would be less of a cost, or it may be very close, maybe even break even, than the cost I paid for the mini. So, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you like the mini? Do you like the large one? Do you have someone that has both? Because it would be cool, as far as someone who has both, to see what they do with both of them. As mentioned, I don't have some, like, spectacular manner. So I have a small size house that my wife constantly makes sure to explain to me that I don't have the space for any more minis or arcades or anything anymore. She's like, you're tapped. She's like, if you want to get one, you have to get rid of one. And that's very tough for me because I am one of those people that will like try to hoard as many as I can. So I'm trying to figure out kind of what the best course of action is as far as what to do with both of them. The cool thing is that currently they have different tables, so if I want different experiences, I can go to the mini and play certain tables, and I can go to the large one and play certain tables, but that negates that if I start adding those tables to the larger one, that basically makes the mini one kind of like, the reason why I should just put it up on Marketplace and call it a day. But like, I'm partial to the mini. I like the style of it. I think I will even like it more when I add the legs to it, because I think that will just like being able to put it somewhere versus right now having a tabletop. I don't really have like a good area to put it for a tabletop, at least as it stands currently. And I don't want to be in a situation where currently, since I added the big one, it's kind of been just sitting down on the table where I make videos at, or like if you watch an unboxing video, just kind of sitting there because my basement is not ready to put in adding the arcades that I've added, because it'd be great if I could just put everything downstairs. If I had a finished basement, no issue. This is already taken care of. Maybe even the larger one would go downstairs and I'd have the mini up here in the office. But as it stands currently, I have the larger one up here, and I have the actually Ninja Turtles arcade one up that my daughter plays a ton because I didn't want to put that downstairs because she loves it. So it's kind of like normally put in front of this here. So in my limited space that I have. But trying to determine, I guess, what would you do in my position? Would you get rid of the mini? Would you hang on to the mini knowing eventually you're going to have the space in the basement to set this up properly, especially when you add the legs to it? Or, are there benefits to the mini that I'm unaware of versus the larger size one? Like I said, the one thing I'm completely impressed by, that I did not mention before, is that the build on these is sturdy. Versus the arcade one-up and having to kind of IKEA it out and kind of build it. I never feel any of the arcade one-ups, they're fine. They're meant to be kind of lighter, that you can kind of take them from room to room and kind of move them around with ease. You can't necessarily, beyond the mini, move that big one around at ease. It's a big monster. But the cool thing was it came in two pieces. So it came in that larger part and then the top like box backdrop part. And all it took was, put a few wires together, screw it in, screw in the legs and call it a day. With the mini, it came in those two parts as well. There's the backdrop and there's the board. You plug in the two things, you screw it together, and you're talking about a 5-minute versus like an hour-long thing that is arcade one-up build. And the quality is exceptional. I can tell you this for the larger one, because when I put this out here initially, my 9-year-old daughter, thought it was a jungle gym, and she decided to climb up on top of it, of which I was terrified because the table portion or the screen portion is actually like built in, like it's a little like recessed, and so it's just glass. And I'm waiting for her, and she's skinny. She's super skinny. But the idea is that, I didn't want something where she would like crack and fall into it, Then you damage the screen, you damage the glass, you damage her. None of these things, I want to happen. But I mean, she's been on there several times, and it's sturdy. It's holding up the mini, and the mini's not, the mini's heavier. It's not super heavy, but it's holding that up with no issue. I mean, that glass is strong. So, and even on the mini, it's strong. Like, you can feel the premium there, and you can see why they kind of put it at a higher price point because of that premium. Now, I've heard some kind of scary stories about AtGames not being the best customer service-wise, that if you run into an issue, they don't really do much to help you. So, I'm kind of concerned there. But so far, no issues. Everything's working like it should. All the buttons work. Everything's responsive. Everything's tight. Like, it works exactly how I want it to. But yeah, right now I'm at a loss. I'm trying to figure out kind of the best course of action here, but I can tell you, at least for me, you can't go wrong with either one. If you have limited space, the Mini's awesome. You won't necessarily miss that larger playfield unless you played that larger playfield. And I can tell you that because I had the Mini before I had the larger one, and playing the Mini felt great. And to be honest, it was awesome until I got the larger one, and you can see, because of the larger playfield, kind of the, it has a more, I guess, pinball feel than the Mini version, which so it still has a pinball feel, just it feels limited in that regard. But you only know that when you played the larger one. So you haven't played the larger one, get the Mini. But if you're eyeballing the larger one I think is the way to go. It definitely is for me. I just like the fact that it has that pinball table look. I don't know if it's actual, I think it's slightly smaller than an actual pinball table. I've always had a dream to get a pinball table. I'll be honest, if money was no object, like if some Powerball wins sometime down the road, I will have a Twilight Zone pinball table in my house somewhere. I just love that game. Every time I go to any pinball emporium or warehouse, I look for the Twilight Zone game because that is the one that I love and want more than ever. And to be honest, if I had an ability or someone to help install all of the things that you can install on this large pinball table so that I could play the Twilight Zone pinball table on there, or some of the cool newer Pinball FX3 and a few other styles of pinball tables out there, I would honestly do it. I wish I had the know-how. I would be terrified to start ripping that thing open and trying to make things work. I've even seen people add like the joystick thing where it's a lot easier to navigate, because the one downside of both of these is that there's a small D-pad for use for control, for use for typing in passwords, and it sucks. It sucks on the micro, it sucks on the large one, it just sucks. And I know with the larger arcade one that you can, it's a lot more responsive, but I just don't want to open that thing and start messing around there and mess something up. That's what I fear most. Right now I have a functioning virtual pinball table, and I'm thrilled with that, even if there are some limitations based on my limited ability to be able to do technical stuff. So, let me know your thoughts on both the Legends Ultimate Pinball Table and the Legends Ultimate Micro Pinball Table. Do you have one of these? Have you played one of these? Would it be something you want to add to yours? I'll be honest, as far as the contrast compare, I have not played the arcade 1-up pinball tables, so I cannot speak for any of them. From what I've heard, they have some cool ones there, like the Marvel one, the Star Wars one are supposedly very good, and there's quite a few games associated with them. But from what I have heard, the quality of the AtGames version versus the arcade 1-up version, the AtGames one wins significantly. Like, especially when you're getting it for the price point that I did. Now, Sam's Club doesn't have those anymore. They sold out instantly. I was lucky enough to have grabbed it when I saw it, and was lucky enough to have Sam's match that price point to make it significantly cheaper than the Mini. So, like I said, it's hard for me to kind of give up on and I keep calling it the Mini, the Micro. It's hard for me to give up on the Micro just because it was my first introduction to it, but I'm very partial to the large. But that'll do it. Guys, thanks so much for watching. If you are new here, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to support me on Patreon like John Bailey did, you can do so. Link is in the description below. If you'd like to buy a t-shirt, a Tomwashere t-shirt, you can do so at Spreadshirt, as well as links to my eBay store, Facebook page, Instagram, Clubhouse, and the Pennsylvania Autograph Collectors Association. Links are in the description below. AtGames Legends Ultimate Pinball. I love it. I think it's a great contrast to the arcade 1-ups, because the crazy thing is that AtGames has a mini arcade as well, and I know that it's very easy to add a key to it and be able to play thousands of games, which was kind of always the dream, where if I had one arcade unit that played every game, I wouldn't necessarily need a Turtles one or Simpsons one or all these different things. So I'm going to be on the lookout for the Legends Ultimate, either arcade or the mini. The problem is this, with the arcade, the large one, it's huge. And I don't really have the space for huge now, unless I get rid of some of these smaller ones, and I don't necessarily want to get rid of the smaller ones, although my wife would want me to. So, hence the debate. Trying to figure out the best way to fill my house with arcade cabinets while at the same time not upsetting the old ball and chain. It's a dilemma of a person that's pushing 40 that's still trying to grasp onto the clutches of their childhood. But guys, thanks so much for watching, and until the next video, I will see you soon. But until then, bye everyone.